Well, things may hit the fan with Cuba. According to an Axios report that was just put out, according to their sources anyway, they are claiming that there are about 300 military drones that have been acquired by Cuba, and they plan to use them to attack the United States of America. If this is true, that could obviously be an all-out declaration of war. And what's interesting is Ratcliffe just traveled to the country recently, and many are questioning, well, this could also be Operation Northwoods 2.0. And I think you and my audience know what I mean by that. And I'm going to get into all of that for those of you who may not. But I do want to tell you guys, please make sure you check out my main channel. There's been a lot of suppression from YouTube. That's why I created the second channel here that you guys are watching, Lisa Report. If you happen to remember, I have a main channel. It's at Lisa Haven. Go there. I just put up this huge thing on helicopters and farms and little buggers called ticks, right? And how that's being used. So check out that article there, what's happening. Farmers catch helicopters dropping stuff. It's this first video that's blinking off and on right there. Go to my main channel, make sure you're still subscribed and watch that there, because I post a video daily on that one and at least once or twice a week here on my backup. So thank you guys for being here. Please make sure you're subbed. But let's start with the fact that our John Ratcliffe actually went over to Cuba just before all of this information came out by Axios. And here's what went down while Ratcliffe was there. Here it is, The Hill. Ratcliffe meets with Cuban officials as the CIA warns negotiation window will not stay open indefinitely. CIA Director Ratcliffe made a trip to Cuba on Thursday to meet with officials amid negotiations that have followed Trump's public musings that he may invade the nation. A CIA official stressed on Thursday that the window for negotiations may have a timeline, adding that the Cubans should have no illusions that the president will not enforce red lines. The CIA said Ratcliffe traveled to personally deliver Trump's message that the U.S. is prepared to seriously engage on economic and security issues, but only if Cuba makes fundamental changes. During the meeting, Ratcliffe and Cuban officials discussed intelligence cooperation, economic stability, and security issues, all against the backdrop that Cuba can no longer be a safe haven for adversaries in the Western Hemisphere. The CIA said a nod to China and Russia. In other words, the United States of America has accused Cuba of basically harboring our enemies and working and dealing with them behind our back. And this is one of the issues that President Trump is having with Cuba, among other things, right? The Cuban government announced the meeting earlier, saying it came following a request submittal by the United States government. And here's Ratcliffe, pictures of him there in Havana, Cuba, meeting with the dictators there, because that is exactly what they are. So all the things that happen in Cuba, there's a lot of bad things happening in Cuba. Cuba is a very communist regime. They repress their people. Many people have been killed under the communist dictatorship. They are against, they arrest dissent, anyone who is in opposition to their views, protesters, these kinds of things. People are dying for their beliefs in that country. The guy is a dictator, and he is just as evil as, maybe Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping. I put them all in the same category, but this guy is crazy. And here's just a quick article on it. I'm not going to really get into it, but state-sanctioned murders and repression in communist Cuba. It's been going on for a long time. And that's why we have some people trying to escape Cuba. A lot of them will come in through Florida and trying to get out of this horrible regime. Their power grid is a mess. Their country is a mess. Their economy is a mess. Lots of bad things happening there. And I believe that's why Donald Trump is stepping in, just like he did with Venezuela. He's like, hey, let's finish off Maduro. And he did. He brought him here to the U.S. In order to save the people. His people over there were literally eating cats and dogs and their animals because they were so starved in that country. Lots of bad things there as well. But meanwhile, we just now get this alert from the Axios about Cuba harboring 300 drones that they could use against us. Take a look at this. And this is on Axios exclusive. U.S. eyes attack drone threat from Cuba. Cuba has acquired more than 300 military drones and recently began discussing plans to use them to attack the U.S. base. So not us particularly not the U.S., but our base there at Guantanamo Bay. U.S. military vessels in possible Key West, Florida, 90 miles north of Havana, according to classified intelligence shared with Axios. So some of our bases in multiple areas. This is still a massive issue. The intelligence, which could become a pretext for U.S. military action, no joke, shows the degree to which the Trump administration sees Cuba as a threat because of developments in drone warfare and the presence of Iranian military advisors in Havana, a senior official has said. When we think about those types of technologies being that close to our country and a range of bad actors from terror groups to drug cartels to Iranians to the Russian to fill in the blank, it's concerning and it is a growing threat. Now, if they were to release these drones, say they wanted to hit, I don't know, stuff in America, this actual picture here, I found it on Zero Hedge, but it shows the red area of how far some of these, I guess the Havana, these drones could travel to the United States. So you've got huge chunks of areas at risk there. But the Axios article goes on to say that Cuba has been acquiring these drones of various capabilities from Russia and Iran since 2023. Okay, so they've been planning this and has stashed them in strategic locations across their island, U.S. officials say. U.S. officials do not believe Cuba is an imminent threat or actively planning to attack American interests. That is the good thing. But U.S. intelligence indicate the island's military officials have been discussing drone warfare plans in case hostility erupts as relations with U.S. continue to deteriorate. And that's what I think it is. They're getting ready for war. Donald Trump has been talking about some of this stuff, obviously, that has Cuba on edge. And this is a reason why, we could see, I think this is a reason why Cuba is acquiring those drones. I think they're preparing themselves just in case. Hopefully nothing happens. I'm hopeful that Ratcliffe kind of eased the waters, but there is still a lot of talk of Trump regarding Cuba, so I wouldn't put anything off the table ever, and you shouldn't as the president of the United States. But with regard to Operation Northwoods, there are some people questioning whether or not that's going to happen and whether that is happening, let's say, again, with Cuba. Now, if you're not familiar with Operation Northwoods, it was a proposed plan by our U.S. military back in 1962 to stage a false FLAG attack against American civilians and military targets, right? They wanted to blame Cuba to justify their intervention. So basically, we did the act, but we blame Cuba for it. And because of that act, now we're going to go to war with you, or we're going to fill in the blank, or we're going to give sanctions, or whatever it may be. This is an actual proposal back in 1962, Operation Northwoods. Now, Alex has thrown this out there regarding this entire situation. And in the end, I'm going to let you decide where you sit on this. But is Operation Northwoods 2.0 here? He asked on his new Alex Jones live channel there, but here's what he states. The Pentagon warns Cuba is preparing to launch massive attacks against Florida and U.S. interests in the Caribbean, and he's referencing this article from Axios, right? I don't know about the Pentagon part, but anyway, in this key report, Alex Jones points out that the propaganda coming out of the Trump administration mirrors the early 1960s Pentagon plan to stage attacks inside the U.S. as a pretext for invasion. So that's kind of the stance, and he just kind of throws that out there. Either way, whether or not that's the case, I don't think there's a reason to do that at this point. I honestly don't. I mean, Cuba's not that big compared to the United States of America. We're obviously more powerful. There's not a lot they can do. That's just my 2 cents. Would we need something like that? Well, apparently in 1962, we thought it was important to do on the opposite end of that. So maybe there's a reason to do it again today. Maybe it has to do with getting rid of a dictator, or maybe there's something a little more to it, like, who knows, minerals or fill in the blank. But obviously there are others that are kind of skeptical of the entire thing, and rightly so. Our CIA, our FBI, our United States government has been lying to us repeatedly. Why believe anything they're saying, even now, right? So who knows? We do finally have one of the most transparent governments in all of the history of presidencies. So I hope he continues on that path and continues to stay the straight line and tell us. That's why I lean kind of away from him on that one. And I love some of the stuff that he puts out, by the way. But anyhow, can't wait to get your thoughts, comments, and concerns. I'd love to hear all of them. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.